Take advantage of the Boxing King media discount at Byd Sheffield. You can get this amazing car for £269 per month with a £269 deposit. Details in the description.
Hi BYD. Increase volume.
Give me a second to get ready, gotta. I need a moment, get it, set it, woo. I need a minute to just. I'm feeling good, it's getting messy, go.
And the vision, knocking on doors from a distance, getting on down with the vibe.
Johnny, I was watching some of your stuff you did with TalkSport last week, and I saw where you, I think I'm going to quote you, or you kind of intimated that Anthony Joshua's injury that stopped him from taking the Dubois rematch was probably fabricated. Am I right in saying that you said something along those lines?
So when they were talking about the rematch for Anthony Joshua and Danny Dubois, you know, it said he had an injury, and so he had to take some time off for the injury. So now he's not injured and he's talking about fighting again. Danny Dubois' name has been forgotten. He's talking about fighting XYZ instead of fighting Danny Dubois, because that fight could be made tomorrow in a heartbeat. So that tells me either AJ's people don't want it or AJ doesn't want it. I think at the end of the day, the buck stops with AJ. And I'm quite sure Eddie's quite persuasive in regards to looking at business or heart. And I just think they don't want that fight. They don't want that fight because if it happens again, he's done. So now it's a case of hanging around to see whether when Tyson comes back from his retirement, or picking the right valuable fight. I don't think the fight against Martin McCauley will happen. I think that was a showman's, them two head to head. Wilder, that could happen. But I think now he's in mercenary. Now it's about that. It's not. I think his ambitions to become world champion again. Or if Joseph Parker beats Danny Dubois, I can see him getting in with Joseph Parker. Just wait till see what happens.
What do you think? Do fighters do that? Do you fabricate or make up injuries?
Listen, I'm not saying he made the injury up. I'm saying he doesn't want to fight, or they don't want him to fight Dubois.
Things change that much in boxing anyway. They're not going to hang around. You know, obviously Dubois, he got the win. AJ was probably trying to get his head around it and thought, well, yeah, we will do the rematch. But, you know, look how it changed. Tyson Fury got beat again by Usyk. Dubois got the chance against Usyk, so why wouldn't you take that fight, you know, to fight for the, you know, the world title against the unified champion? And then, you know, it's just funny how things work out, that then, you know, Tyson looks like a better prospect because he's been beaten again. That's 2 losses, you know, the only 2 losses on his record. So it looks more doable for AJ. So, and it's a big fight. You know, AJ against Tyson Fury is a big fight. And, you know, Tyson retiring is a you know.
Do you believe he's retired?
Well, put it this way: if you're actively boxing and somebody says to you, right, Johnny, we're going to get you, here's a fight for £1 million, and you're, yeah, not enough. Well, that's what it is. But if you're retired, well, you've got to tempt somebody with. It's not like that's what your career is. You're going to take that wage. It's like, I don't want to do it anymore. Well, we'll give you 1.1. Now, not bothered. We'll give you 1.5. Well, not bothered. Well, we'll give you 2. Well, maybe. Can you make it 3? It's going to take a lot to bring me out of retirement. You're having to bring somebody to that stage, aren't you? Before you then give them the wage. So I think Tyson's. I think at the time when he retired, I think it was genuine.
Yeah.
And it's like anything else. I think it will. I mean, he's been getting ridiculous money anyway. But I personally believe, and I think with Tyson, it's going to be very hard for Tyson to finish his career on a loss. And if he boxes Anthony Joshua at Wembley and wins, it's going to kind of wipe out the losses to Usyk. And who knows if he boxes on, if it could be Usyk again. But I think that will kind of, you know, put Tyson right back up there, because it's one of those fights, like we said, Kell against Amir Khan, Junior Whittaker against Ricky Hatton, those big Mike Tyson against Lennox Lewis. It's one of those fights that the British public want to see, because they want to see the traveller, you know, AJ's nemesis or whatever, fighting each other. They want to see him fight against AJ. They want to see it, and that's a big event. You know, regardless of AJ getting beat by Dubois, regardless of Tyson getting beat by Usyk, they've both been beat by Usyk twice, both of them. And that's what people are thinking, right? They've both been beat twice by Usyk. Who's going to win with these two? Who's going to be the best? And there's going to be the big AJ fans. Oh, AJ is going to beat him. There's going to be Tyson. Oh, he's going to win. It's going to be a tremendous event. And I think, you know, Tyson, I don't even think it'd be about the money for Tyson. I think it's just about the event and to, you know, kind of put himself back out there before he finishes his career. I don't think he's finished yet because he didn't look finished in that last fight. He's not gone enough to be finished.
So just before I move on to Tyson, just to clarify, because that's the way I kind of read the TalkSport headline. You're not saying the injury was made up to avoid the rematch. You're saying it was forgotten about.
AJ and
Yeah.
Dubois. Yeah, no, it's conveniently forgotten about because it's too dangerous. Risk reward doesn't weigh up. AJ, you can put Danny Dubois in, you know, against Usyk Parker. If you put it in the UK, you'd probably get the O2 filled out. You put AJ in against anybody, he sells a hell of a lot more tickets, brings a lot more revenue in. I think in reality, as a fighter, if you really think you've got the better of someone, I want the rematch now. Remember when Lennox Lewis got knocked out against Hasim Rahman? In the ring, still drunk as a skunk, he's saying, I want the rematch, I want it now. There's none of this.
And the other guy who beat him.
Oliver McCall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the difference. So now it's like everybody's just forgetting. Danny Dubois is the IBF champion. If AJ wants to be a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world, that's what he'd be chasing.
But weren't McCall and Rahman like one-punch knockouts, which came...
Yeah, but I understand that. But you remember hearing AJ in the corner. You know, you can remember how he looked at Dubois as if to say, this kid's not good enough to beat me. So now it's a case of, but I keep saying that, listen, it sounds like I'm always chopping at him, and I'm not.
No, that's me. I'm always chopping at AJ, not you.
Because I'm a fan of AJ's, but you got to call it how it is. And I think the problem is he doesn't believe in him. He doesn't believe in all the things he said about himself.
I'd love to ask him that, or what he thinks about that, because he's quite a deep thinker. Moving on to Tyson Fury, I think, Johnny, you said he's the boy who cried wolf. That's how you described his retirement. Is he the boy that cried wolf, Dom?
Not really, because I think that, you know, with boxers, you think about Tyson, that the ups and downs he's had, that he's an emotional fella, and, you know, you can be thinking one thing one day and then completely change your mind the next. So I think when he actually announced his retirement, I think there is a certain amount of...
It probably means at the time.
Yeah, at the time he'd probably go for his head, and also there will be a bit of the salesman in and kicking in and chucking the cat amongst the pigeons. But, you know, especially when Eddie's announced they're going to put AJ on against Tyson, and then Tyson says, I don't think so, mate. I'm not boxing. I'm retired now. It kind of throws the cat amongst the pigeons.
What do you think he meant by Dick Turpin wears a mask?
That's. I think people have got that wrong. It means he's sticking people. He's been sticking people up for good money, hasn't he? He's like. You know, we've had this conversation before. But when Naz came up here, and my dad used to say, Naz, like, the money you're getting, you couldn't go to London and rob 2 banks and get that kind of money. And if you get caught, you're doing 20 odd years. But the worst thing that can happen, you should get beat. I remember when Naz came here, when we were talking about why he boxed Pereira when he weren't ready. He went, it just come to my mind. He says, I just remember my dad saying, Naz, you know, the money you're on. He says, you couldn't rob 2 banks in London for that kind of money. You know, you've only got a beating ring for 12 rounds because you get 25 years if you get caught robbing banks. And he goes, I just couldn't turn it down because I weren't ready for Barrera because I weren't training properly. He said, but I just couldn't turn that money down. And that's 20 odd years ago. And I think he said he copped a couple like $6 million or something, which were good. But you think about the money that Tyson's supposedly having in Saudi. Dick Turpin is an highwayman, isn't he? You know, put your hands up, it's your money, or give me your money. And he's more or less saying, I'm going to stick you up for the money. If you want me to fight, you're going to be paying stupid money. That's what the Dick Turpin reference is.
I remember when I became world champion, I think I got a couple of opponents, and I thought, geez, I remember back in the day when I boxed these lot for like $5,000, and it's the same level as opponent, but you just think, all right then. And Frank could say, don't matter what to say about the opponent, I'll take the flak.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Yeah, box all you can.
You know, another thing you said as well, you said the Tyson Fury 5 years ago would have beaten Usyk, but obviously and I think you kind of suggested as well, he's not the fight he was 5 years ago as well. But Usyk told me that Tyson gave him his hardest fight, and he's fought everyone.
That's what I'm saying. So look at
does that mean them two statements from you and Usyk, does that suggest how good this guy is? Or
Yeah. So listen. So you look at the first fight, Tyson, because the first fight with Tyson against Usyk was harder than the second fight. I've never seen Usyk in so much trouble, and that's including when Dubois had him down. I've never seen him in so much physical trouble. He looked in the right state. And I think Tyson Fury is not the fighter he was 5 years ago. And so now this fight, because this fight you're seeing is a very wealthy man. He's surrounded by yes people.
The hunger's different.
So his attitude, the reason for getting up in the morning is completely different. And 5 years ago, that Tyson Fury would have beat Usyk. So Tyson, when his attitude and how he approached this fight mentally was spot on right, but that's what he should have had the first time he boxed Usyk. Because once Usyk had downloaded the blueprint of him, and Tyson was aware of what Usyk was capable of, Tyson was then second guessing. He never threw. He threw about 6 instinctive shots in the second fight, and that's when he knocks a lot of people out. The rest of the time he's thinking twice about it. He's not getting the shots off. But if you watch Tyson when he's knocked people out, the shots they're just instinctive, but he had to overthink it because he knew what Usyk was available.
Usyk had worked it out.
He knew what Usyk was capable of doing. So if you had that attitude from the second fight in the first fight, then that would have worked for him. But he just got too complacent.
And to be fair, Usyk himself said the second fight was a lot easier.
Yeah.
But it will be because he's already been through the hardest of it, hasn't he? And he knows what to expect. You see, when people used to box Johnny, he only ever boxed anybody once. The first time, you're trying to work it out. The second time, and I'll give you an example. He once boxed Rudy May. So Rudy May was a sparring partner, and he used to spar with Johnny all the time. Then he ended up boxing Johnny. But the way Rudy sparred Johnny was totally different the way he fought him. When he come out to fight Johnny, he actually gave Johnny a couple of decent rounds. And Johnny, I'm thinking, this shouldn't be hard because, they sparred each other. And then Johnny had to jump on him and put him away. But the fight, because Rudy knew what to expect, he got half of the stuff worked out. So, same with Jazzy Dickens and Kid Galahad. They sparred a lot before they boxed. That's why it was such a close fight. And the Jazzy Dickens who turned up for the British title fight against Kid Galahad wasn't the Jazzy Dickens who sparred him. It was a much, much better version. So good fighters will recalculate from all the information they've got. And let's say Tyson Fury is a hard puzzle to solve the first time, but if you can, it's going to be easier the second time.
Yeah, Dan Aziz, Joshua Buatsi, they spar with each other, they know each other. So Joshua Buatsi always had his number, no matter what was said in the build to the fight, and that's so true. Once you've done it once, you just know, as long as you don't take it for granted, it's a done deal.
Last thing I want to speak about, Dalton Smith at the weekend.
Bad man.
Knocked his guy out in the first round, great performance. But there's always people, I always like to bring up the negative stuff people are saying. A lot of criticism for his opponent, but is that his fault? He's gone in and fought the guy that the promoters put in front of him.
I think he's that good. And some fights you've got to get. Some fights, if they're good or bad, if you can get rid of them quick, then people can't assess it. And Dalton got rid of him quick enough. And I think Dalton, if I was his team, and they're doing the right thing, they want to try and publicly embarrass Adam Azim into a fight now, because Adam is getting better fight after fight after fight. And the longer it goes and they're not fighting, the harder the fight is going to be for Dalton Smith and Adam, because I think Dalton is probably. Is probably a lot more polished and finished than Adam is at the moment. Adam's growing and getting into a better fight by fight. So if I was Dalton, you've got to do everything possible. But then if I was Shane, I'd say to him, listen to me, ignore what everybody's saying, ignore the pressures. You should be fighting him. Take your time because your time will come.
Don, what did you make of Dalton's knockout and his opponent?
Well, the thing is, any European title fight, it's you never know what you're going to get in a European title fight. Sometimes you get really hard fights, sometimes you get easy fights, and you've got to be in the ratings. I think you've got to be in the top 10 or top 15 of the European ratings. And we've had a lot of European title fights in the past, and one of the reasons that the promoters don't generally go, you don't get that many European title fights these days. I know Frank, completely kind of disregarded European title fights because you just don't know what you're going to get, and sometimes you can get a really hard fight. So with Dalton, it's hard to say because he did him in a round, so that you can't really get too much information from that. But Dalton Smith's a good kid. He can punch. I've had him down here sparring. I've seen him from being a kid training. I think he's 27, 28 years old. He's like, whether it's an easy fight or not an easy fight, he's now going to be in a level. When you're a European champion, you get into putting some like top 10 of WBC and other organisations. He's going to get put into hard fights, and if he's not up to scratch, he's going to get found out in them fights. So that's a good test. Now he's a European champion. He's gone up to a different level. He's going to have. You'll know when the next time. You've got to look at the good fighters who came through Europe and made it big. Sergio Martinez was Spanish. I can remember he came over here and boxed for the IBO title against Richard. No. Richard. like,
I've been hit too much in the
yeah,
end.
I have. But Richard, he'll come to me. But gave him a great fight, and Sergio beat him, and moved on onto the world scene. He had some great fights. Became world champion. It'll come to me now. Richard, come on.
Richard Williams.
Yeah, Richard Williams.
yeah.
Richard Williams. Box Richard Williams. And Richard Williams at the time was flying, and he came through. I think it was an IBO, but he was Spanish at the time. He was fighting out of Spain, and then I think he might have relocated to America. And look at the career. That's who finished Paul Williams' career,
That's
isn't
right.
it?
That's right.
So you've got to be careful with the kids coming through Europe. So like I said, Dalton's got him out of the way, and he's on to the next level. And if he's not ready to fight at that level, he's going to get found out, and he's not going any further. So they're not really doing him any favours if it's a pushover job, because he's going to find himself in a fight that he can't. He's not going to be ready for. So it's kind of. It's one of those things. It's like it can be a blessing in disguise, and sometimes it can be a cross to bear.
Well, hopefully, if the logistics work out next week, we're going to get Dalton on the podcast as well. I was trying to get him here today, but he couldn't make it. So hopefully next week he's going to come on and we could talk about his fight and also see how Adam Azim gets on at the weekend. But yeah, lastly, Dom, if you're going to put your book up again, I'm going to put the link up. So obviously the hard copy's not out.
It's out in February, but we're still online. But it's coming out in February, so this is the book.
You can buy it online, and I'll put the link up. It's £7.50. Yeah.
It is online, but this is probably going to be a bit more. But we'll know in February, probably about the 5th. It's going to be on. We've got to have a word with the print to see what we can do it at.
If you want to look like Johnny Nelson at 50 odd years old, that's the secret.
It's nearly 60.
Can-
Nearly 60.
58. Can I just say, there was, you might have to cut it back to fourth here, Ben Whittaker. I don't know if I mentioned it last time about, there was negotiations with Shalom and Warren in regards to the rematch, and Ben Whittaker, and so that fight, the rematch isn't happening.
Oh, is it not happening now?
As far as I know, I don't know. Don't quote me. I don't know if Frank wanted it on his platform, whatever. But just let's remember this: Cole Thompson boxed David Hay in David Hay's 10th professional fight, and he knocked David Hay out. David Hay could have said, "I want a rematch." He never did the rematch. Look what David Hay went on to do in his career. So Ben Whittaker's handlers, Ben Shalom, whatever, need to look at that. And don't be pressured into making the rematch because they think it's something they've got to do. Because fight, as long as you can take the criticism and the flack, you've got to do what's best for the fight. I think Ben Whittaker took the wrong tactics, took the wrong attitude, the wrong approach to the fight, and he had to learn a harsh lesson in that fight. But it doesn't mean he just came across a stumbling block in his career thinking, I've got to learn from that, like David Hay did. David Hay was written off when he got stopped against Cole Thompson, but look what he did.
Well, I'll tell you now, Ben Whittaker's never going to achieve the heights of David Hay. Nowhere near.
You know what? And that's what I'm saying. Never say never. Never say never.
Well, we'll
say
see. We'll see.
There's rumours that he's looking for a new trainer. If you was going to name anyone in the country, Johnny, who's the person?
I think Johnny could do a good job on him. I think Johnny would be able to train
You know
him.
what I'd say.
I want training.
Yeah. And the thing is, that's the attitude you want. I'd say Dominic, and the reason why I keep saying Dominic
It's
is
definitely not coming. Somebody realistic.
so I know he's gone to speak to Shane McGuigan. And actually, Shane McGuigan has gone up in my estimation because I actually thought he was his father's son, but Shane actually knows the job. He knows the psyche of fighters, and so he does. But I just think Ben needs somebody like Dominic, like Shane, where he doesn't rule the roost. You come in, this is what we're doing. If you're not out. You're not, don't waste my time. And regardless of what you think, fighters, they need somebody to guide them and say, this is what we're doing. And what I'm saying, when fighters get to a certain level and they become trainer, manager, promoter, and take their after ball of getting the job done, that's where it affects their career. And so he needs somebody that can respect and that can instill discipline in him in the gym.
Dom, from what Johnny's just said there, who's the person that can do that for him?
Do you know what? If I'm honest, because just watching him, and like I say, I always go back to the time when he boxed. He sparred down at Sheffield Institute of Sport against Liam Williams, and I just saw then a little bit of an insight to him. But I think the person who'd really probably show him the way above everybody else, the perfect man for him, who's got a bit of experience, he's been there, he's done it all, he's mature, and he won't take any shit. It's probably Adam Booth.
Good
Do you know
shout.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Adam
good
Booth,
shout. Forgot about it.
because Adam Booth's not doing a great deal at the minute, and I think he's not doing a great deal probably for the same reason I'm not. Is because you get to this age, you want to pick and choose who you're going to waste your time with. If you're going to waste your time, do you understand? And Adam Booth's been there. He's been in the big fights. Groves, David A, a lot of experience, and very clever. And I think he'd be the one where he could spend a lot of time on Ben Whittaker and reprogram his brain a little bit, because he's dealt with the prima donnas of the business.
What about Joe Gallagher?
Joe's got his hands full at the minute, and I just think Adam Booth, because he's that way. Adam Booth can say, look, this with David A, that with George Groves, been in the biggest fights, and I think he'd get a bit of respect off Ben Whittaker. And Adams gets a bit in depth with his fights. He gets attached. Joe's a bit different. He's a northerner, innit? So he's a bit different. But Adam Booth probably could show him the way, and I think he'd listen to Adam Booth. That's what it's got to be with Ben Whittaker. He's got to be somebody who he's going to listen to and respect, and I think he would do with Adam Booth.
Great. I appreciate your time as always, Johnny. Thank you for coming down. Hope to catch you next time. Thank you.
We gonna make it.